What started as a simple college assignment at the University of Oklahoma would soon ignite a national firestorm. In the quiet halls of academia, a single grade became the spark for a much larger debate, one that would ripple across campuses and newsrooms nationwide. Samantha Fulnecki, an undergraduate student, was tasked with writing a paper for her class. She chose to express her Christian faith, drawing on the Bible to support her arguments and weaving her personal beliefs into her academic work. But, when her teaching assistant William Mel Kurth reviewed her paper, he gave her a 0, an act that would soon have consequences far beyond the classroom. News of the grade spread quickly, capturing the attention of national media outlets. Suddenly, a private academic dispute was thrust into the public eye, sparking heated discussions about free speech, academic standards, and the place of religion in higher education. The university found itself at the center of a storm, forced to confront difficult questions. Should faith-based arguments be allowed in academic work? Where is the line between personal belief and scholarly rigor? On one side stood a student defending her right to express her religious convictions, insisting that her faith was an integral part of her identity and her education. On the other side, a teacher determined to uphold scientific standards and academic integrity, arguing that personal beliefs should not override evidence-based reasoning in the classroom. The university's response would set a precedent, not just for their own campus, but for classrooms across the country, potentially shaping how future conflicts between faith and scholarship are handled. This incident unfolded during a period of intense national debate about free speech on college campuses, where questions about what can and cannot be said were already front and center. For many, Fulnecki's 0 became a symbol, evidence, they argued, that universities were suppressing dissenting or unpopular views, especially those rooted in faith. The controversy only grew, coming to represent a much larger cultural battle over the roles of faith, science, and freedom in American education. It was no longer just about one student or one grade, when the university responded by firing the teaching assistant. The debate intensified. Critics and supporters alike questioned whether justice had been served, or if the university had simply tried to quiet the uproar. The incident raised profound questions about the rights of teachers to set standards, the authority of universities to enforce them, and the boundaries of academic freedom in a diverse society. What began as a single grade on a small assignment had now become a test case for student rights, the role of personal belief in higher education, and the future of open debate on campus. The story forced the nation to confront a difficult question. Is there still room for faith in the modern university? Or must personal beliefs always yield to academic convention? And ultimately, who gets to decide what ideas are allowed in the classroom, and which ones are left at the door? The controversy began quietly, almost unnoticeably at first, within the walls of a respected university. It all started with what seemed like a standard science class assignment, something students might expect in any introductory course. The students were asked to read and respond to an article that explored the complex relationship between gender norms and mental health in adolescence. The assignment was intentionally open-ended, encouraging students to engage in thoughtful discussion. There were no strict formatting rules, and students weren't required to use only scientific sources. The article itself delved into how the pressure to conform to traditional gender roles can impact the mental well-being of young people, sometimes in ways that aren't immediately obvious. The instructions for the assignment didn't specifically forbid students from referencing personal beliefs or religious texts, leaving the door open for a wide range of perspectives. This ambiguity in the guidelines set the stage for misunderstanding and, ultimately, conflict. Samantha Fulnecki, one of the students, decided to frame her response through her Christian worldview, drawing on her faith to interpret the article's themes. The teaching assistant, Mel Kurth, likely expected a more traditional scientific analysis, grounded in research and empirical evidence. The gap between their expectations was enormous, and neither side seemed prepared for the other's approach. The assignment's openness allowed for a variety of interpretations, but it also set up a direct clash between faith-based reasoning and scientific inquiry. This fundamental difference in approach, science versus personal belief, became the spark that ignited the entire controversy. Soon, the story spread beyond the classroom, and the stage was set for a national debate that would draw in voices from across the country. One assignment, two worldviews, and a university suddenly caught in the middle of a much larger conversation about education, belief, and the boundaries of academic freedom. Samantha Fulnecki's response to the assignment was anything but typical, and it quickly set her apart from her classmates. Rather than referencing scientific studies or contemporary gender theory, she celebrated traditional gender roles, citing the Bible, specifically the Book of Genesis, as her foundation and ultimate authority. She argued passionately that men and women have distinct God-given purposes, roles that are not interchangeable or subject to change based on modern trends. For Fulnecki, gender is not just a social construct or a matter of scientific debate, it is a spiritual truth, rooted in divine intention and religious tradition. Her paper directly challenged the article's modern, non-binary perspective, refusing to acknowledge gender as a spectrum or as something fluid. Most controversially, she went so far as to call the push for non-binary identities demonic, a word that shocked many who read her essay. This strong, even inflammatory language reflected her deep religious convictions, but it also guaranteed a strong reaction from both her peers and her professor. Her essay was a bold and unapologetic statement of faith, openly rejecting the academic consensus on gender and refusing to compromise her beliefs. Instead of engaging with scientific research or sociological arguments, she presented a binary, faith-based view, drawing a clear line between her worldview and that of the academic mainstream. The use of religious language and her outright condemnation of non-binary identities made her paper stand out, and set off alarms for her grader, who was concerned about the tone and content. Fulnecki's approach was a direct and open challenge to prevailing academic ideas, sparking debate and discomfort in the classroom. Her paper was more than just disagreement, it was a declaration of her faith and a refusal to conform to the expectations of the assignment. This boldness, and her uncompromising choice of words, ultimately led to the 0 grade she received from her professor. The clash between faith and academic standards was now unavoidable, setting the stage for a larger conversation about belief, identity, and the boundaries of academic freedom. Teaching assistant Mel Kurth gave Fulnecki's paper a 0, calling it highly offensive. Kurth's feedback said the grade wasn't about personal beliefs, but about failing to meet the assignment's requirements. The paper relied on ideology over empirical evidence in a science class. Kurth pointed out that major scientific groups reject the idea of strictly binary sex and gender. The feedback was blunt, using the word demonic to describe non-binary identities was not just disagreement, it was harmful. Kurth argued that academic standards require evidence, not religious doctrine. The 0 was justified, Kurth said, because the paper didn't answer the prompt and used offensive language. The feedback blurred the line between academic judgment and personal offense. Was the grade about poor argumentation or about unacceptable ideas? This question fueled the controversy and left Fulnecki feeling targeted for her beliefs. Fulnecki didn't accept the 0. She filed a formal discrimination complaint, claiming religious bias. The university launched an immediate investigation, placing Kurth on administrative leave. The case quickly escalated, drawing national attention and pressure on the university. The provost's office reviewed everything: assignment instructions, the paper, feedback, and grading history. They wanted to know if Fulnecki was singled out or if Kurth graded all students similarly. The investigation aimed to balance student rights with academic standards. Was the 0 a fair academic judgment or religious discrimination? The university's decision would set a precedent for future cases. The whole country was watching. The stakes were high, for both student and teacher. The university announced its decision. It sided with the student. Mel Kurth was fired from all teaching duties, a rare and serious consequence. The investigation found the grading arbitrary, not based on clear standards. Fulnecki's 0 was changed to a perfect score. The university declared her paper, including its religious content, an acceptable response under the assignment's vague rules. The administration emphasized its commitment to teaching students how to think, not what to think. They promised to review instructor training to prevent future incidents. The message was clear: teachers can't impose personal standards, and students' religious views must be respected. The decision reversed the original judgment and sent shockwaves through academia. The university tried to balance academic freedom with student rights, but the debate was far from over. The fallout would shape campus policies nationwide. From Fulnecki's perspective, this was clear discrimination. She believed she was punished for expressing her Christian faith in a thoughtful response. The assignment didn't ban religious sources, so she felt targeted for her beliefs, not her writing. Fulnecki argued that universities should welcome all viewpoints, not just those professors agree with. She saw her case as a fight for free speech and religious liberty in the classroom. For her and her supporters, this was about protecting students from ideological bias. They warned that punishing students for quoting the Bible threatens academic freedom. If students fear speaking their minds, true education suffers. Fulnecki stood up not just for herself, but for every student's right to think independently. Her case became a rallying cry for those who feel silenced on campus. For Mel Kurth, this was about academic standards, not religion. Kurth insisted that science classes require evidence-based arguments, not personal ideology or scripture. Fulnecki's paper, in Kurth's view, failed to meet the assignment's scientific criteria. The claim that sex is strictly binary contradicts current scientific consensus. Kurth believed it was their duty to correct misinformation and maintain a respectful classroom. The use of demonic to describe non-binary identities was seen as hateful and unacceptable. Academic freedom, Kurth argued, doesn't protect language that demeans others. For Kurth and supporters, upholding academic standards is essential, even if it means giving a failing grade. They worry that punishing teachers for enforcing standards will undermine education. This case is a microcosm of the larger battle on American campuses. It highlights the tension between faith, science, free speech, and academic authority. The university's decision protects students from biased grading, but leaves teachers uncertain about their rights. The rules are now less clear. Can any source be used in any class? Where is the line? Teachers may fear giving bad grades, worried about accusations of discrimination. Academic freedom could suffer if teachers hesitate to challenge unscientific or offensive ideas. Universities must decide, are they places for open debate or for protecting students from offense? The University of Oklahoma tried to do both, but the conflict remains. The challenge is finding a balance between student expression and academic rigor. This case forces higher education to confront its core values, and the debate is far from over.